Have you ever stopped to think about how much you truly know? I mean really know down to the core without a shadow of a doubt. It's a question that might seem simple at first, but the more you chew on it, the more complex it becomes. It's like peeling an onion. There's always another layer beneath. Think about the vastness of the universe, the intricate workings of the human body, or even the complexities of human relationships. We live in a world overflowing with information, yet our individual understanding is just a tiny drop in that ocean. A humbling thought, isn't it? This is something that has fascinated philosophers and scientists for centuries, and today we are going to explore one of the most intriguing aspects of this puzzle, the illusion of knowing. We are about to dive deep into a phenomenon known as the Dunning-Kruger effect. This might sound like some technical jargon, but trust me, it's something you have encountered in your own life, perhaps without even realizing it. It's a cognitive bias that affects us all to some degree, and it can have a profound impact on how we perceive ourselves, how we interact with others, and how we navigate the world. The Dunning-Kruger effect is essentially the tendency for people with low competence in a particular area to overestimate their own abilities. It's that feeling of misplaced confidence, that unshakable belief that you know more than you actually do. We have all been there at some point. Maybe you thought you were a natural at a new sport, only to be humbled by someone with more experience. Or perhaps you believed you were an expert on a topic after reading a few articles, only to realize later that your understanding was quite superficial. It's that confidence that comes from not knowing what you don't know. Let's take a look at a classic example, a story that has become almost legendary in the world of psychology. It's a tale of a man named McArthur Wheeler, a man who in 1995 walked into two Pittsburgh banks in broad daylight with no mask or disguise and attempted to rob them. His only precaution? He had covered his face in lemon juice. Why, you ask? Because he believed that since lemon juice can be used as invisible ink, it would also make him invisible to security cameras. Yes, you heard that right. Lemon juice. He even tested the theory beforehand, taking a picture of himself with a Polaroid camera. When the picture came out blank, he assumed the theory was correct, possibly blaming a faulty camera or user error, which was, he later said, was likely as he thought he had pointed the camera at his face before taking the photo, as one does. Of course, the police caught him within hours, thanks to the very visible security footage. When confronted, Wheeler was in disbelief. "But I wore the juice," he reportedly exclaimed. This is a rather extreme example, of course. Most of us are not going to rob a bank armed with nothing but citrus fruit, but this story perfectly illustrates the core concept of the Dunning-Kruger effect, a complete and utter lack of awareness of one's own incompetence. Wheeler was so profoundly ignorant of basic chemistry and even how cameras worked that he was unable to recognize just how absurd his plan was. It's almost comical, but it also raises a deeper question. How often are we, in our own lives, blinded by our own lack of knowledge? This story caught the attention of two social psychologists, David Dunning and Justin Kruger, who were intrigued by this extreme case of misplaced confidence. They decided to investigate further to see if this phenomenon extended beyond bank robbers with bizarre theories. They designed a series of experiments published in 1999 to test people's actual competence in various areas, such as grammar, logical reasoning, and humor, and then compare it to their self-perceived competence. The results were striking. They found a consistent pattern. Those who performed the worst on the tests tended to overestimate their abilities the most. In other words, the people who knew the least thought they knew the most. They were trapped in what the researchers called a double burden. Not only were they incompetent, but their incompetence prevented them from recognizing their own limitations. They were, quite literally, too ignorant to know they were ignorant. This concept, this double burden, really highlights the insidious nature of the Dunning-Kruger effect. It's not just about being wrong. It's about being so wrong that you don't even realize you're wrong. Now, to understand this more thoroughly, we should explore what some call the 4 stages of competence. First, we have unconscious incompetence. This is where Wheeler was with his lemon juice. It is that initial stage of blissful ignorance where you are unaware of what you don't know. You might have a lot of confidence because you are simply unaware of the complexities of the subject. You are confidently wrong, so to speak. Then comes conscious incompetence. This is when you start learning and suddenly realize how much you don't know. Your confidence takes a hit as you confront the vastness of the subject. It is the "oh dear, what have I gotten myself into" moment. This stage can be quite uncomfortable, even discouraging. But it is also a crucial step in the learning process. The third stage is conscious competence. Here you are actively learning and practicing. You are developing skills and knowledge, but you still have to concentrate and think things through carefully. Your confidence gradually increases as you make progress, but it is a cautious confidence grounded in the understanding that you are still learning. It is knowing you are doing something right, but it is far from automatic. Finally, we arrive at unconscious competence. This is the stage of mastery. You have practiced and learned so much that the skill becomes automatic. You can perform it effortlessly, almost without thinking. Think of a seasoned musician playing a piece they have performed hundreds of times. They are not consciously thinking about each note. They are simply flowing with the music. It is automatic. It is natural. The Dunning-Kruger effect is most prominent. In that first stage, unconscious incompetence. It's when we are most likely to overestimate our abilities because we simply don't have enough knowledge to accurately assess them. But it can also influence the other stages. For example, someone in the conscious incompetence stage might underestimate their progress, while someone in the conscious competence stage might still overestimate their abilities relative to true experts. It is a constant dance, this journey through competence, but here is where it gets even more interesting. The Dunning-Kruger effect is not the whole story. There is another side to this coin, a phenomenon that is almost the mirror image, the impostor syndrome. Have you ever felt like a fraud, despite evidence of your success? Have you ever doubted your accomplishments, attributing them to luck or external factors rather than your own abilities? If so, you might have experienced the impostor syndrome. The impostor syndrome is the persistent feeling of being a fraud, a feeling that you don't deserve your success, that you are just faking it, and that any day now you will be exposed as an imposter. It is common among high-achieving individuals who often struggle to internalize their accomplishments. They might dismiss their success as a fluke or attribute it to external factors like luck or timing, rather than their own talent and hard work. It's like they have a little voice in their head constantly whispering, "You don't belong here. You are not qualified. You are going to be found out." Imagine a successful entrepreneur who secretly fears that their success is just a house of cards waiting to collapse, or a talented artist who believes that their work is not truly original or meaningful, or even a student who excels in their studies but attributes it solely to memorization and not intelligence. These are all examples of the impostor syndrome in action. It's a feeling of inadequacy that persists despite evidence to the contrary. It's the opposite of the Dunning-Kruger effect, where people underestimate their abilities rather than overestimate them. And just like the Dunning-Kruger effect, it can have a significant impact on a person's life, leading to self-doubt, anxiety, and even self-sabotage. Now you might be thinking, okay, so some people overestimate their abilities and others underestimate them. What is the big deal? Well, the big deal is that these cognitive biases can have a profound impact on our lives, influencing our decisions, our relationships, and our overall well-being. They can prevent us from taking on new challenges, from pursuing our goals, and from reaching our full potential. They can also make us more susceptible to manipulation and misinformation. If you think you know everything, you are less likely to question what you hear or to seek out new information. Interestingly, there's another fascinating concept to consider, one that adds another layer of complexity to this whole discussion. Polanyi's paradox. Michael Polanyi, a Hungarian-British polymath, articulated this paradox in his book, The Tacit Dimension, in 1966, stating, and I quote, "We can know more than we can tell." What does that mean? It means that much of our knowledge is tacit, meaning it is subconscious, intuitive, and difficult to articulate. Think about riding a bike. You know how to do it, right? But could you write down a detailed, step-by-step, Guide that would allow someone who has never ridden a bike before to do so perfectly on their first try? Probably not. There are countless examples of this. We can recognize a friend's face in a crowd instantly, but we would struggle to describe their features with enough precision for someone else to identify them. We know when a musical note is off-key, but we might not be able to explain the exact frequencies involved. This is tacit knowledge, the knowledge that we acquire through experience and practice, the knowledge that is deeply ingrained in our minds and bodies, but that we cannot easily express in words. It is the knowledge that allows us to perform complex tasks without consciously thinking about each step. Consider the seemingly simple act of making a pencil. You might think you know how a pencil is made, but do you really? Think about the graphite, the wood, the rubber, the metal band holding the eraser. Each of these components requires a vast network of knowledge and specialized skills to produce. The graphite has to be mined, processed, and shaped. The wood has to be harvested, seasoned, and cut. The rubber has to be extracted, refined, and molded. And that is not even considering the machinery involved, the transportation, the design, the marketing, and all the other intricate processes that contribute to the creation of this seemingly simple object. No single person possesses all the knowledge necessary to make a pencil from scratch. It's a collective effort, a testament to the interconnectedness of human knowledge and the power of specialization. And yet, despite the complexity involved, we take pencils for granted. We use them every day without thinking about the vast network of knowledge and skills that made them possible. This is Polanyi's paradox in action. We know more than we can tell. And this paradox has profound implications for our understanding of knowledge, learning, and the human mind itself. If we can know things that we cannot fully articulate, what does that mean for how we define intelligence? What does it mean for how we teach and learn? What does it mean for how we try to advance technology? These are deep questions without easy answers. So, where does all this leave us? What is the takeaway from this exploration of cognitive biases and the limits of human knowledge? Well, perhaps the most important lesson is the importance of intellectual humility, recognizing that our knowledge is limited, that we are all susceptible to biases, and that we are constantly learning and growing is crucial for personal and intellectual development. It's about embracing the Socratic maxim, often phrased as, "The only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing." Now that might sound a bit extreme, but it is not about self-deprecation. It's about acknowledging the vastness of knowledge and the limitations of our individual understanding. It's about cultivating a mindset of curiosity, a willingness to question our own assumptions, and a deep respect for the complexity of the world around us. It is not about knowing nothing, but about knowing we will never know everything. It's also about finding that delicate balance between self-belief and self-awareness. On one hand, we need to have confidence in our abilities to pursue our goals and achieve our dreams. But on the other hand, we need to be honest with ourselves about our limitations and seek feedback from others to help us grow and improve. It is a constant dance between confidence and humility, a dynamic equilibrium that allows us to both strive for greatness and remain grounded in reality. And finally, it's about understanding that learning is a lifelong journey. It's not a destination, but a process, a continuous cycle of exploration, discovery, and growth. There will be moments of triumph and moments of frustration, moments when we feel like we are on top of the world, and moments when we feel like we are drowning in a sea of ignorance. But that is okay. That is part of the process. Embrace the challenges, learn from your mistakes, and never stop seeking knowledge. We should strive to be lifelong learners, always curious, always questioning, always seeking to expand our understanding of the world and ourselves. The pursuit of knowledge is a journey filled with twists and turns, with moments of clarity and moments of confusion. It is a journey that requires courage, humility, and a willingness to confront our own limitations. But it is also a journey that is immensely rewarding, a journey that allows us to grow, to connect with others, and to make a meaningful contribution to the world. And, perhaps most importantly, remember that the more you learn, the more you realize how much more there is to learn. The human mind is a fascinating and complex instrument, capable of incredible feats of creativity, innovation, and understanding. But it is also prone to errors, biases, and illusions. By understanding these limitations, by embracing intellectual humility, and by cultivating a lifelong love of learning, you can unlock your full potential and navigate the complexities of life with greater wisdom and insight. The world is a vast and wondrous place, full of mysteries waiting to be unraveled. Embrace the unknown, be curious, and never stop exploring.